Hello guys, today we're doing a track by track for my album, What a Devastating Turn of Events. This album, especially with the songs, there's an element of boundary making, and if anyone listens to these songs and they can relate to the songs and they don't set a boundary after, you're asking for more trouble, to be honest, because I had to set some major boundaries after writing these songs. You know, I always dreamed about having an album, and now I bloody have one.
Oh no, goddamn, I wish she'd known back then, the beginning to the end was there. No matter what, your youth is gonna end. My God, it's sinking in. There's no point in anything.
So Garden of Eden is definitely a track which I think replicates the space that I was in when I started writing the album, and it was done in Hereford with APOB, Glenn Roberts and Mary White, and we were in such a calm and zen space. It was near the end of the album, and I think it really sets a tone of the fun that I had. You can hear all the voice notes and the laughing and the giggling, and we're in the countryside, and I think it just sets such a great precedent for the entire album. I always have bird sounds playing in my house, but also growing up, I grew up in a little village called Forestdale, where I would always wake up to birds making sounds. I was doing my paper rounds and always hearing like the birds like singing, and it feels nostalgic, and the whole album feels nostalgic. So I wanted it to kind of replicate, you know, what you hear in the mornings. And I think living in the city is definitely, I don't hear it that much. So it's a nice kind of warming sound to hear.
No point in trying to prove yourself to them. Oh, I question who you are from deep within. No matter what, your youth is gonna end. My God, it's sinking in. There's no point in anything.
Well, I was looking out into a very beautiful garden in Hereford. However, I think that Garden of Eden, obviously that's something from the Bible, and it's a space which was a home for people, but they kind of left or it got taken away from them, and they kind of hunt to kind of find their placing. And I feel like home was kind of a representation of that for me. I had this one space which I was always in and then left, and to me that place, even though I have so many sad memories and happy memories, I think there was a lot of beauty from that, and it was almost like a perfect place or environment for me to be the person I am today. So I think thinking of it like a peaceful garden or Garden of Eden was just kind of the right tone that I wanted to set.
Yeah. No point in trying to prove yourself to them. Oh, I question who you are from deep within. No matter what, your youth is gonna end. My God, you never win. There's no point in anything.
As humans, you always feel like you have to prove yourself to someone or something. There's always a sense of pressure you give yourself, and you're like, I have to do this to prove it to someone. And I kind of hit a point where I was like, who am I proving a point to? Or what am I doing this for? And I think when you're younger, you have that mindset, and as you get older, you start to care less about it. The older the people I speak to, they're always like, don't care what other people think, don't care about this. And as I am getting older, I'm starting to feel that. But I think when you're younger, you're so scared about growing up super fast, and you're always trying to prove yourself to the next person. So yeah, it's kind of that fear of getting older, the fear of not achieving enough, but even just existing is a great achievement. But I think no matter if you're a musician, an actor, if you're in something more academic or anything, we all have the same fear in this mid-20 range. It's quite weird. So I think everyone can relate to the experience or feeling. The message that I wanted to send with The Hills was, bish bash bosh, she's here, she's from London. I think Black and POC people are very celebrated when we're doing things like sports and footballs and high achieving. But if you're anything less, then the most exceptional talent, you're deemed in sometimes a certain way or particular way. And I just wanted to show that the artist I am has come from being raised in London, being in the UK, and that's a celebratory thing. As much as I am Zimbabwean, I am from the UK, I'm born and raised here. It's had a massive impact in, the music I write, my culture, my art. It's kind of like parading that and showing what it's like being, a Black Brit with immigrant parents and what that means and what that looks like. It was important for the Hills because I think people listen to it and think I'm saying I don't belong in the UK. I'm actually saying the complete opposite because I wrote it while I was in LA having quite a terrible time because I was like, oh, I don't belong here in these hills. I actually belong back in South London or East London.
When I'm gone with the wind, pulling the skin off my bones. 'Cause deep from within, this place that I'm in is never ending.
When I wrote The Hills, I was definitely having quite a time, and now upon reflection, I think I was emotionally underprepared. So that really made me super homesick. I missed London, I missed the people, I missed the culture, like everything in LA closes early, there ain't no pubs. I'm like, what's going on here? It was like the last 3 days of the trip. I had my final session, weren't going the best, and I was with Aaron Shadrow. We went back to his house and he was just like slamming on these drums and I'm just like singing this thing and he starts just like rocking out on the guitar, and I made a song about how much I miss home, and we were in the hills, and I grew up near some hills in the UK and he was in his hills, and I was just like, these aren't my hills, I gotta go back to my own and celebrate coming home.
When you don't belong, the hills will know it's visible. You don't belong here, long way down the road from the hill I know, invisible, my weakness.
Something I've been fighting is the whole, being a Black artist and doing what is perceived as white music and trying to break that barrier. And I think if you start a project with something so far from what you're stereotyped as, you kind of can't even preconceive what the rest of the album will be like. And I think it was important to put that statement out first so that anyone who listens after will be like, oh, she does this kind of thing, and we'll have, an open heart and open ears for the rest of the project. And I think it set a really cool precedent. Yeah. And I think a lot of kids could relate. Never Need Me is essentially about love which is toxic, but the moment when you realise that you deserve better, that realisation is sometimes really heartbreaking, but it's almost a relief at the same time. That moment where you're a bit like, I wish you the best and I do actually love you a lot, but you then realise that you're enabling someone sometimes, and it's better to let them go and let them figure it out for themselves. It's kind of really beautiful when you let someone go and they actually become better for themselves. It wasn't good for me to be in their lives because sometimes you are a bit more of a hindrance. Even if you're trying your best, you might just not be what that person needs.
Without you in my head, you can do what you like. Oh no, I couldn't care what you do with your life. I hope you just take it easy. I hope that you never need me. Make it all cry, no sticking around. But how can I swim if you're pulling me down? Just promise you'll take it easy. I hope that you never need me.
Writing Never Need Me was quite a journey because I did not like that song when it first was written. I remember leaving the session and being like, well, I hope that doesn't get sent into the label. And about 3 days later, everyone's like, oh my gosh, this song that you wrote, Rachel, was really good. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I remember this is the point when I was a bit sick of writing songs. I was all songed out. And we're at Wazing Festival and Duncan was like, Rachel, you need to finish this song. And I was like, I'm not gonna finish the song. And then Duncan was like, well, what if I tell you I won't let you do any more writing sessions till the end of the year? And I was like, I will finish the song. We took it to Rich Turvey, who exec produced the entire album. And I was like, cool, I want it to be faster, I want it to be higher, and I want it to have more intense drums. And with a bit of pizzazz, a little bit of, it became the song that it is now. And now, I don't hate it, now I actually really like it. Unfortunately, yes, because that means everyone else was right.
Look in my head, you can do what you like. Oh no, I couldn't care what you do with your life. I hope you just take it easy. I hope that you never need me. And maybe I'll regret not sticking around. But how can I swim if you're pulling me down? Just promise you take it easy. I hope that you never need me.
Low-key, the Never Need Me music video, I could suggest that it's about me and my housemate, Georgia. Because when I was going through like this whole situation, she was the bestie who would be like, you deserve that, you deserve this, but would also like let me do my own thing. I remember we discussed about the music video being like, oh, having a best friend and she could be replicated, bish bash bosh. Florence Pugh's just was like, I'm just gonna pop into your little video. And I'm like, all right, girl. So it kind of worked out really well. The video shoot for Never Need Me was probably the most fun video I've ever done in my life. Definitely had a little cry afterwards. I was also like low-key, like slightly hungover, but it's okay, because me and Florence had gone out for a little bit and it was one of the funniest nights out I'd had as well. The chemistry on set was great. I think the extras and everyone's attitude to the day, because it was a really long day and it was very cold, and it was done like a week before Christmas, and so last minute. For how rushed it was and how chaotic it could have been, it was great. And Florence came on set with just like the best attitude. I think she was just high on life. She was like, having great times, just with my friend in a music video. I think that song is a bit looser in meaning, but it was definitely about my ex-partner and my ex-relationship. Now that I was out of that relationship at that point, probably for like 2 or 3 years, it was kind of like, I can't believe I gave you everything and you couldn't give me much. It's kind of like that moment where I was like, stupid, why did I do that? You didn't care. And it was just kind of that. And it's like, I gave you my everything. It's like a cry. But I'm also like kind of over it. So I was like, don't want to go too deep in the feels, because I did write an entire EP about that man. So I was like, I don't want to give it too much energy, but I can give it a little bit of energy.
My skin, your skin just finds it hard to stay away. My patience, I'm waiting for the story that you say.
I like working with APOD because I think he has a really special gift of being able to be there enough for you to have creative freedom and a creative flow, but he doesn't impose his decision on where the song will go too much, but he says enough and the right amount to make sure you get the best story out of a song. And he is so just non-offended by, if you're like, I don't like this, he's like, cool, delete. And if you love something, he's like, let's try this. Or if I try and do like a weird thing with the guitar, he'll be like, cool, yeah, we can try doing 20 harmonies, and if you don't like it, that's fine as well. Yeah. He makes everything feel super relaxed and comfortable, and it was just a beautiful experience. The culture in LA writing in that kind of sense is very like, you get there at 12, finish by like 4 or 5, and it's very like, you need a chorus, you need this, you need that, and I'm really not used to that. But being with APOD, I'm pretty sure we were talking for about 5 hours. I was telling him how I love people like Labyrinth and like some wonky music and some wonky guitars, and he just started playing this weird crunchy guitar thing. And I think what I liked is there was no pressure of writing like a hit or a pop thing. He was just kind of like, write whatever you want. I was just being super experimental with the vocal layers and the melodies and the verses, and yeah, it was a really fun one to do.
Does your guilty conscience live like this? Do you bury all your truth when you kiss me? I say goodbye to all my senses. I'll admit that I trusted you and you dismissed it.
It was quite funny because working with APOB, I would always tell him about like the English countryside. I was like, oh, you've got to write in the English countryside, because obviously in LA I spent all my time telling them how much I want to go back to London. But the countryside with Glenn, and I was like, you've got to come, it would be great. And he was just kind of like, I would always love to come. Coincidentally, the time we're doing the trip, he's in London and Mary's in London. And I'm like, well, it's gonna have to be a link up, guys. And he came down for the trip, and I think it was life-changing for all of us, but I think especially them. They'd not seen any English countryside before. The vibes, the pubs, the energy, the headspace we were in to finish writing the album was just incredible, and we came up with such beautiful songs like Garden of Eden, My Blood, a couple others, and yeah, I think the creative juices we had together was just kind of a perfect concoction. But yeah, I think especially with that song, it's kind of like that chapter was completely done for me. It's kind of nice to be able to have that sense of relief where something which was a terrible time in my life now becomes something I can remember and reflect on and see how it shaped me as a person.
Is he okay? Like, is he actually okay?
It Is What It is definitely incredibly real, because it is about a man, the same man from Never Need Me, coincidentally. And it's kind of like a rant or a ramble, which I think so many people have had that internal dialogue where you don't feel like you've said enough, or you don't feel like you've told someone enough about how they've made you feel, and you're just like slightly pissed off about it. And it's kind of like, I think that phase in your life comes with a degree of immaturity and pettiness, but it's a very real experience which many people have, and my friends would be like, don't do that, don't do this. And I mean, my friends literally did in the voice notes, be like, no, Rachel, and you know, ranting for me.
But your friends tell me you like me and I like you, but not like that. Or maybe I do. It's really up to you, like seriously, that's on you, bro, and maybe you're the problem, actually.
I think writing the song like that definitely wasn't on purpose. Like poor Leroy Clampett, I kind of went in there with, I don't even know if I was in like a writing song mood, but I was definitely in a pissed off mood. And I remember meeting him for the first time. He was so lovely, and I was just sat on this sofa writing stuff, and I was like, what if I say it like this? And he's like, yeah, this is cool. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna keep talking. I'm just not gonna sing much on this. And I just went through a whole rant about how this guy was like completely ignoring me. And then when we went to finish the song, the guy had called me the day before for the first time in ages for hours. And then he was like, oh, is that guy still ignoring you? And I'm like, there's been some developments. So, and at the time it made me happy. So I guess that's why I started singing. I was like, no more ranting from me. I'll have a little sing song, but still in my petty mood and my petty vibes. So yeah, it was brilliant to be able to express myself in that way.
'Cause you don't know whether you're in or you're out. You should have told me you had doubts about it. All the shit that came out your mouth. It is what it is, what it is a problem.
I think the immersiveness of that track is quite beautiful, because it unexpectedly obviously comes in with my best friend May. I think there's an element of sass that comes with it, but also, I don't want to say I talk dry or monotone, even though that's the two things I always describe myself as, but I'm like, when you listen to what I'm saying versus what I'm actually saying, I like the contrast of it. I think I have a degree of like calm fear. Like usually my friends are like, if Rachel's really angry, I get really calm and just really like very flat. I think it's interesting with music because the music you make versus the personality you have can be such two different things. And I think sometimes when people hear my songs, they're like, oh, this girl is depressed and moody and deep, and I'm like, I am in one way, but also day to day I deal with it in this way, and I would like to think I'm quite charismatic, and thank you, Queen. I would like to think I'm quite charismatic, and there's another side to me, and I think the personal aspect of it adds an extra personal layer to the album, which I want people to feel like they really know me by listening to the album.
How's you and your ex? Nah, I'm just taking the piss, I've got nothing to do with it, but maybe I did. And what if I called you and asked you to kiss me, then text you and asked if you missed me and aired you after you'd seen me?
I think with this album there's definitely elements of allowing yourself to have different personalities. I think in this day and age and in society, especially being young, it's kind of like you have to be one way and you can't forgive yourself for being another way, you know, cancel culture, all this next stuff. But I think there's a degree of, yeah, I can be petty one day and that is fine, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to be petty for the rest of my life and that dictates me as a petty person. I was just having a petty moment, or I was just having an angry moment, and I think I want this project to show forgiveness as well, and an allowing of being. You don't know how you are going to be until you do everything else and know what's wrong and right. So yeah, I think it's almost like quite a self-forgiving project, and I think that song definitely adds an element to me, which sometimes I think if people see a petty side to you, I'm like, oh God, I don't want to be seen as that person. However, I did have a moment.
And my friends tell me no, but I keep sipping on this dumb bitch juice.
We've all been a dumb bitch before. Drinking dumb bitch juice is usually in the form of double tequila shots. I remember being in LA with Kenny Beats. In passing, I was just like, oh God, my dating life's terrible. Like, me and my friend May are always drinking dumb bitch juice. And he was like, what? I was like, dumb bitch juice. Like, that's what we call it. Because whether it's a tequila shot or just being stupid with the men we choose, it's just a juice that you should not be drinking, but it tastes great, unfortunately. And he was like, you should use that in a song. And I was like, maybe I will. I think everyone's had dumb bitch juice, slightly addictive. I think back in the day I would have said, if you want a good time, have some. Now I'm like, if you want sheer chaos and probably tears and a lot of therapy, then you can have dumb bitch juice.
I've been here before, but I'll be giving it the same excuse that he looks so cute. And my friends tell me no, but I keep sipping on this dumb bitch juice.
Essentially ignoring advice from friends to not do something. You know you deserve better, but don't think you can get better. And your friends keep telling you no, but I'm just gonna keep doing it anyways because you feel like you don't have any better options. I think maturing for me is realizing that if you're in a relationship that doesn't make you happy, the better option is to be by yourself. I used to always fear being by myself and not wanting to be alone and stuff. Once I left a really terrible relationship or just stopped talking to guys, I was like, oh, what's this I hear? Peace of mind. And yeah, it's been fun discovering who I am as a woman and as a person and as a creative.
I've been here before, so I'll stop giving him the same excuse. He don't look so cute, and my friends tell me no, but I keep sipping on this dumb bitch juice.
So Dumb Bitch Juice, at the end of that song we have lovely Clara Ampho giving me a radio talk down, and I think it's super important having a black woman on there from the UK who she's achieved so much, but she's also had such a massive impact and influence on, you know, my journey, the support she's given me, the unity we have. And I think having someone slightly older than me being in like a similar industry and seeing her work ethic and how hard she works, she inspires me so much, and I think she just gets it. I think she was the perfect person to have, such an incredible voice, such an incredible person. I feel kind of honoured that for the rest of eternity I've just got Clara Ampho at the end of Dumb Bitch Juice. She's dabbled in Dumb Bitch Juice too, apparently, so I don't feel so alone. What a Devastating Turn of Events is not only my album title, but it's also the halfway point of the entire album, and I call it the turning point. I feel like in life, whenever I've received really bad news, it's always felt like it's come out of nowhere unexpectedly, and it kind of flips my whole world upside down. This is one of the most serious topics I've spoken about. It's the most heartbreaking one, but it's also the one story which isn't directly what I have done. It is distinctly about someone else, and making sure that I shared that story in the right way was very important.
Oh no, goddamn, I wish he'd known back then, the beginning to the end was near, but loss was in the air.
Loss is about suicide, it's about relationships, it's about being overwhelmed. It's also about how things affect people differently, because we have all felt what she has felt before. However, people make different choices, and the choice that she picked is the one which no one should ever feel like they have to make. But a lot of people can end up getting to that point if they don't have the right support system around them. I've been where she's been, story-wise and pain-wise, and the way she felt, sometimes you do feel like you want to end everything, and she's actually done it. And I think it's understanding that we should give people a lot more grace and understanding and love, but hopefully people will hear it and change their mind if they ever wanted to go through that route.
A morning sickness, and she knew it from then. She'd be crying in despair to her mother, out of wedlock, which her family despised. But if she lost it, it would still be a crime. Now she's crying from the side of her mother.
I think it's important to share this message because I think there's a facade put forward which is done through social media or what people think people are going through or experiencing, but you actually never really know what people are going through or experiencing. And I think the perception my fans will have of me is like, oh, she just talks about heartbreak with boys, and she talks about how this guy's done this and stay and this, and all these things do affect me. But there are also deeper things that have happened in my life which affect me in different ways, but I've never really written about them, or if I have written about them, I haven't put them out. But I think it was trying to find a way to write about them so they can be processed and understood, because music is my way of processing. And I hope that by having it out, it will allow other people to process if they've ever lost someone in that way, or know someone who's gone through that or been affected by someone else's story.
Spamming messages with tears in her eyes. Little did she know it'd be the day that she died in the kitchen, eating things that she shouldn't.
I felt a bit like an outsider in that situation because I have, family in Africa and family in the UK, and my siblings were born in Africa and I was born here. But I would say my siblings were closer to her, and seeing how they dealt with that was just really heartbreaking, because it's always unexpected. No one expected it at all. But then learning and understanding her story and her journey, and seeing how different cultures understand things. I understood it in one way, but other people understood it in a different way. So it was very eye-opening to I almost felt lucky in a sense to not even be too attached, because it was already heartbreaking as it is seeing it from where I am. But I think it's important to let the story be heard, and to know that anyone can feel like that, but also feeling like that. I don't want to say it's normal, but to a degree it is. I think people get really scared about suicidal thoughts and feeling like you want to give up, but actually so many people do go through those things, and it's always right to speak up about it before it hits that point. My Blood is about self-harm, which is the following track from What a Devastating Turn of Events. When I'd get really stressed out, I'd get really sick, I'd pull my hair out. It was just something I used to do, but I'd always cover it up by like putting eyeshadow in my hair or having weaves or having wigs on. I couldn't really understand what the feeling was, but it's kind of like I liked the feeling but hated it at the same time. It's kind of that internal battle of you're going through self-harm, which is painful when you see the end results of it. And, you know, seeing myself with patches in my hair, it made me feel so self-conscious, and I hated myself in many ways. But then when I would do it, it felt really safe and felt quite nice, even though it is actually quite painful. And, you know, people harm themselves in many different ways, and it's just kind of that moment where you kind of look at yourself and you're like, what am I doing? And why am I doing this? And almost calling yourself out for what you're doing.
It's my blood on the broken door. It's my blood in the makeup drawer. It's my blood that I do this for.
Especially when I was younger, if I didn't like something, I'd always cover it something or try and cover how I feel. Or if I felt sad, I'd cover it up by being like, I'm fine. Or if I didn't like how I look, I'd cover it with makeup and hope I'd get compliments. And I think there's an element of when you go through anything in life, you always cover up. It's almost like this tainted thing of, you know, makeup is so fun and beautiful to play with when you're in a good place. But if you feel terrible about yourself and you start doing makeup, it's sometimes one of like the hardest things that you can do. So I thought it's kind of like poetically quite a beautiful contrast between the two, because it can be such a great tool for one thing, but it could also be your enemy in another way.
The longer I try to leave it, the more I forgive the feeling. What do I do when they comes at a price I can't afford?
I wrote that in Hereford with APOB, Mary and Glenn. That trip came just after my LA trip, when it kind of hit its worst points then. And to be able to sit with 3 people who didn't really know the ins and outs of what was going on, but explain to them how I was feeling in an environment where I actually felt incredibly peaceful and unjudged, was a really therapeutic but beautiful thing to go through, and they were all able to help me translate it into song. It was very therapeutic writing that one, and hearing it back makes me understand myself more and my thought processes more.
It's my blood. Oh, my blood.
When you say as my blood, as in my family, it's interesting because so much of my trauma has come, I wouldn't say directly from my direct family, but it's a lot to be around and discover yourself in an environment where there's so many people. I think self-harm comes from giving yourself a lot of pressure to be something. My blood being seen as my family, it's almost like I need to be good enough for them.
Nothing lasts forever, but you were gone too soon. You were robbed of some, I was robbed of you.
Robbed is about people in my life who have passed, one being about my cousin and one being about my niece. Being the youngest in my family, I haven't seen as much loss as my siblings and my parents. They process it to what I would say in a lot of a better way. I also think there's an element of, in African culture, when someone dies, no matter what age that they are, there's a sense of celebration, as heartbreaking as it is, getting together, memory. But then as someone who is raised in the UK, you know, funerals always like very dark, very quiet, not something, a celebratory thing, it's more of like a reflective sort of thing. And yeah, it's been interesting trying to process death, knowing about it in one way versus your entire family treating it in a different way. You know, I'd always say to my mum, even with uncles who had passed before I was born, I'd be like, oh, that's not fair, this isn't fair. But my mum was always like, but they lived and they did this and their life was really beautiful and you would have loved them if you'd met them. And the way she speaks about death has made me process it better. But to me, I see, especially premature death as a robbery. And it's kind of like, yeah, you were robbed of another season and I was robbed of you. It kind of feels super unfair, but this song kind of represents that it's okay to feel like you've been robbed with death.
We were perfect strangers, one life torn in two. You were robbed of some, I was robbed of you. Nothing lasts forever, but you were gone too soon. You were robbed of some, I was robbed of you.
When your family processes death in such a celebratory way sometimes, I'm kind of like, is anyone sad about this? Like, why is no one as upset as me? But I guess they do feel it, but they process it in a different way. So I wanted a song to represent, you know, I do feel robbed out of having you. It's that element of processing death, and you know, death is something no one can escape. Even I can't escape it, no matter how hard I try. It's understanding that that feeling is okay to have, and you can feel like that and still be fine after. I think that's the scary thing with death, is that everything else carries on and will forever continue to carry on. Like, even, you know, I think I found out about my niece at a music video, no, just 2 days before a music video shoot, and my cousin, while I'm in studio, and it's just kind of like, oh, one sec, just need to get a phone call. And then you kind of go back into the space and you're like, something incredibly major has happened. And everyone's like, are you all right? And you're just like, yeah, I'm fine. Everyone's just like, oh, I'm gonna do this after, I'm gonna do this. And you're like, I'm gonna plan a funeral and I can't tell anyone about it. So yeah, I think it's that element of something as major has just ended in your life, but everything else is carrying on. That was one of the most difficult things, processing with death, because it feels like my entire world is ending, but everything around me continues. Jonas Summerfield, what a man. I mean, I wrote 2 songs with him and they are both on the album. I think that's quite a high success rate for him. But writing Cold Call was an interesting one because it's about my housemate. Sorry, Georgia. I remember speaking to Georgia about a man who was interesting, but I think what helped is that in that situation, I feel like I could relate to it, but maybe not as severely, but I could relate to the situation, and I kind of enjoyed putting myself into her shoes, because obviously I then live with her, you know. Coming home is very different to how you present yourself to the world, and I think when you come home you really unleash your true feelings about things. And she could go out and work and like do the best job ever, but then when she comes home I could see how these things affect her. Vice versa with when I was going into my situation. It's almost like the fit of rage where it's like, I can't take this anymore. And I think the drums are just so relieving. I was inspired by Coldplay, Politic. That song, the calm that comes straight after the chaos, it's like, wow. And I think it's really therapeutic, and it's quite therapeutic to be like, I'm not gonna take this anymore, and just scream it out.
We're living in a world we fear, where nothing is what it appears, and life can be unfair. So I won't take these cold calls anymore.
It's a fun one because I'm not a very shouty person, but I think I've got a few shouty-ish songs on this. Yeah, that was a good one to make, and I was very excited to bring it home to Georgia, wasn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, she can confirm.
We were really rocking out to it.
We enjoyed it quite a bit.
So
banging moment.
cathartic.
A very cathartic song, that one.
It looks can kill and they almost stick. Too big, too small, I'll never win. I love myself and I love my skin. I love myself, I love my skin.
So I Hate Myself is when I went through a bit of a phase where I was on the borderlines of potentially going into like an eating disorder. I had a partner who called me fat one time, even though I think I was like a size 6 or size 8. but I'd gained weight in the pandemic. He just made like this comment about, have I gone to the gym? He didn't work out, but you know, he was in like a modeling industry. So everything is about your looks then. You know, it's weird because I'm quite a tough person in that sense. I walked straight out of his house. I was like, I'm not having that. You're not gonna call me that. You can go find someone else if you're gonna do that. But then when I was in my own house, I started looking at myself like, oh, maybe I am gaining weight. I got COVID near that time as well. And with COVID, I didn't eat for a while, not just because I was sick obviously, but I drastically lost quite a lot of weight and I liked how I looked. And then I was sick once and then I looked really good after in my own head. And I was like, okay, this is a quick way to like lose weight. And in my life, I've never ever thought of myself or looked at myself in that way. My mum has never made me feel like that. My sisters have never made me feel like that. My whole family, we are thick, curvy women and we love ourselves. But I didn't notice how what he had said had made me feel like that. This is the first time I've ever been like, I hate how I look. And it's because of the person I'm with. And having my friends catch me out and be like, what's going on was, I think, one of the biggest blessings, because it 100% just could have got worse.
I victim of my mind.
Yeah, I think it starts really intense, you know, with I see my lunch sprayed on the bathroom floor. My new size 6 don't fit no more. My new size small don't fit no more. My jaw looks gone and, you know, the compliments and likes are more and more. I think starting with something so drastic is important, because when it flips to the other point, it's like, that is the severity or level my brain was actually at in those moments. Even though the thoughts were that severe, I was still able to get out of it. And hopefully I can inspire other people to be able to catch themselves and get out of it and know that no matter how severe and dark your thoughts get, you can get out of it.
So my lunch sprayed on the bathroom floor. My new size small don't fit no more. My body aches, jaw looks gone. The compliments and likes come more. They say looks can kill and they almost did. Too big, too small, I'll never win. I hate myself, I hate my skin.
I think the victim of my mind lyric is so true in senses of your mind can really play tricks on you. But I think when people have those kind of thoughts, you're like, I'm not normal, something's going on. But it is normal for your brain to randomly be like, I hate myself. And then you're like, who said that? Like, why has that come about? Being able to catch those moments and fix them is one of the greatest tasks. I think people fear those thoughts, but whenever I have those thoughts, I kind of sit with myself and I'm like, right, why has that entered my brain? What's happened? Do I need to journal about this? Do I need to go for a walk? Do I need to speak to a friend? I think learning to deal with those thoughts versus suppress them is something we should all embrace.
I wish that I could keep you in my pocket for myself. Hey, hey.
When I wrote Pocket, it was interesting because I think I just was sick and tired of writing these sad songs. I was like, I needed something that's positive. And at that time, I'm pretty sure I wrote it in LA with APOB and Mary. And at that time, I was still going through my period of speaking to toxic boys and being like, why do I keep getting the bad ones? Why do I keep getting the pre-therapy boys and not the post-therapy boys? Then I was like, you know what? I'm sick and tired of being like, I hate men, I hate relationships, I hate love, I'm not gonna get love. I'm like, why don't I actually like embrace love and see what it would feel like being like full on in love with someone unapologetically and write a song about it. And even though I didn't have anyone at the time to write it about, I know what it feels like to be that deeply in love with someone. I also realized that if you're not in a good place yourself, maybe that's the reason why you don't receive the love that you get, because you're almost self-sabotaging the sweet realization of love is so simple, and for me to let this flower grow, I need to take care of it, not just, you know, throw my horrible language and my old insecurities. I need to water it and be gentle with it, as well as I need to be gentle with myself. And I think it's very sweet song.
I know you've gone through hell, I've pulled you through somehow, but you don't know I can't do a thing without your help. I'd like you for myself. I'd like you for myself.
Pocket is almost like the positive turn of events, but I think What a Devastating Turn of Events as an album has so many unexpected turns, but they all seem to end negatively or reflect on something negative, which to a degree is fine, but when you go through this and then it suddenly flips to something where it's like, oh, this is quite sweet, and this is quite nice, and it's almost like a false sense of security sometimes, or it can be your reality. It's kind of like how you wanna look at it, and I think it's important to reflect all of those things in one project. And I feel like by the time I'd written Pocket, I was hitting a way healthier point. I was understanding myself and relationships a lot more, and it's almost, I think, hinting into the next stage of writing. I've always written till this point about things that are depressing and sad, and I know other musicians who have said, I can only write when something bad happens to me. I think I was able to prove to myself by writing Pocket that I can actually write about positive things. It was just more of a fear thing, and I'm excited to hit a point where I can speak positively about myself and my life, because I think it proves that now, as a human, I'm not drowning in darkness as what I felt before.